There was a time not too long ago when if you were a young man about town, had a bit of cash to spend and were looking for a bit of fun, skirt chasing and back alley bare knuckle boxing, you bought yourself a roadster. This was a car that was small, light and yet had a powerful engine, superlative handling and most importantly, 2 seats. This was the kind of car that older men would sneer at and boys would chase. In Europe, you could get by with a ragtop because in Europe, summers are fun and to be enjoyed and not run away from. This is Times Drive. I'm Joel Pereira and today we're indulging in 2 very rare luxuries. 1, we're driving a convertible and 2, because it's still February and the sun isn't trying to charboil us to a juicy medium rare, we're driving with the top down. This is the 2014 BMW Z4.
Like, yeah, I make money like so what? I make money like so what? I make money like so what?
Or to be more precise, the BMW Z4 sDrive 35i roadster. BMW didn't even have to call it that because really, given the way this 2-seater coupe looks, it really couldn't be anything but a roadster.
I'ma run to the money to make it. That means I'm going.
Now you could be boring and call this car a convertible, but that'd be like calling Jennifer Lawrence pretty. Because if you think about it, the old puny Sandstorm used to be a convertible too. Nope, this is a roadster. It just sounds better, more manlier.
A lot of cash sitting in my pocket. Cargo shorts fit right with 2 watches.
Like all good roadsters, the purposeful looking front end goes on forever and the boot, on the other hand, barely even gets started. There's all those slashes and curves running down the side that say yes, a bunch of very intelligent German men made sure that people will stare at you as you drive past. Even BMW's trademark kidney grille looks like a snarl when it's stuck on this sweet thing. Heck, it even looks angry. Though the Z4 might look great when it's just standing there, it feels so much better when it's flying around, with me behind the wheel. Now, as with the older Z4, you still got a 3-litre straight-six engine which gets some extra sugar thanks to a twin turbo. So that's 302 horsepower and 400 newtons of torque. Unsurprisingly then, 0 to 100 will come up in about 6 seconds and change. In fact, if you want to hear an even more impressive sounding statistic, how's this? On paper, the Z4's got a pretty much the same power to weight ratio as a Porsche Boxster S. Now putting that power to the road is a dual clutch automatic gearbox. Yes, it does have paddle shifters and yes, it's got 7 speeds and yes, it will shift literally in milliseconds. Simply put, this car's got 2 real speeds. Fast? Are you serious? There are of course choices in driving modes as well because hey, we're not communists here. So you get the regular laid-back normal mode, the sprightly sports mode and the white-knuckle sports plus mode. And like any self-respecting German sports car, the Z4 handles pretty damn well too. Some of the credit for that goes to the car's front end but rear-wheel drive layout. And then there's the fact that the weight distribution across this car is pretty much even. Hit a corner hard and unless you're a total idiot, you will not smear yourself across the guardrail. More importantly, even though the Z4 looks really long, BMW's uber-intelligent German techies have been quite clever. All 4 wheels are pretty much at the 4 corners of the car, so there's 0 overhang at either end. Also, the low-slung seating on this car means that I'm actually sitting pretty close to the rear axle, which in turn is having a friendly chat with my bum ever so often, telling me exactly what the car's feeling around bends. The only complaints I really have with the Z4's handling is the fact that you've got a hint of torque steer at the start that you've got to grapple with before you're on your way. That and the electric steering feels a little lifeless dead straight. Now because this is a modern German sports car, you're going to have dynamic suspension. Also, because this is a modern German sports car, the suspension is going to be quite tight and thumpy in normal mode. But if you hit sports mode and the road ahead is not silky smooth, you're going to have to sleep on your stomach for up to a week. Now, despite all that bravado and sportiness, the Z4 isn't as raffish as its main German competitor, the Porsche Boxster, and under no circumstances must you assume that you could put on a helmet and take this car out to the track. Maybe it's the cramped corporate type interior or the fact that the insides of this car don't have anything that makes you feel really special. Since this is a small two-door sports car, there's very little to the interiors, and they do feel cramped if you're a big guy like me. There really is no space for anything, not even a phone. The red leather and aluminum mesh are a nice touch, but other than that, there really isn't anything else. No strips of enamel colors, no chrome, no special badging. I can't put my finger in it, but it feels something about this car gives me the sense that no matter how sporty or fun it seems, it feels like it would never leave the house without a pair of formal shoes on.
The beat back, man, that's my presentation. On your mark, get set, ready, let's go.
And then there's the roof, whose novelty will wear out really quickly when you realize that convertibles are really rare in India, and if you do drive with the top down, especially in the city in traffic, you will look like a Burke.
Focus, focus, the laws of motion. The fear sink ships in a salty ocean. Hocus, crocus like a swarm of locusts.
And then you run the risk of being spit on by some spiteful common man type from a bus as an expression of his righteous malice. Still, the Z4 is definitely one of BMW's most fun to drive this side of the M Sport range. Most Beamers like the 5 Series, for example, even if you buy them for speed, there is an element of practicality for them. 4 doors, 4 seats, kids can go to school, etc. Not so with the Z4. This is a young rich man's toy, best enjoyed alone or maybe with someone who's got legs that are better than yours. On the business side of 65 lakh rupees ex-showroom, this is a guilty pleasure on 4 wheels. Now, if you do have the kind of money though, there is no reason why you shouldn't indulge, though you should drive with the top down at all times, because the common man can be quite malicious.
Let's go.
Welcome back. Now, if you're a motorcyclist in India, right now is a really good time. Last week we brought you the modern iteration of a classic motorcycle, the Indian Chief, and this week Kailash Menon brings you the Triumph Bonneville.
This is the Triumph Bonneville. With over 50 years of heritage, it is an icon on wheels. A bright example of British bike building and passion at its best. I can sum up the design DNA of the Bonnie in 3 words. It's iconic, it's timeless, and it's authentic. Now, though it's a 2014 bike, it's original and old school as it was in 1959. For starters, it still has that classic curvy silhouette to it. It gets a 7-spoke mag wheel straight out of 1980s. The best bit, the fuel-injected unit is made to look like a carburetor, which is very classic and very clever. The Bonneville is as British as fish and chips, barring the American name. Every ounce of the Bonnie is essentially English, barring the American name. It's named after the Bonneville salt flats in Utah, America. You know why? Because in its heydays, it was notorious for blitzing on the salt flats and smashing speed records. Well, it's not smashing any speed records today, but it has kept its twin-cylinder pedigree alive, which has become pretty potent. Now, throbbing between your legs is a very modern 865cc parallel twin engine. It puts out 67 bhp and twists out 68 Newton meters of torque. And putting all that torque onto the tarmac is a very able 5-speed gearbox. With the torque peaking at 5800 RPM, the Bonnie has a strong mid-range. And thanks to the modest proportions, it is not a pain to ride through rush hour. The only thing to mind in traffic is the trigger-happy throttle. Now the Bonnie feels a bit too eager and enthusiastic, especially at city speeds. I mean, you really have to keep a tab on the throttle inputs. And on the highway, it's a different story. It's a pleasure to ride and does not rattle up to 120 kilometers per hour. It only rattles once you redline her at every gear. So bottom line, it'll fit fine for your city commutes and it's a great fix for your weekend wanderlust too. But having said that, it's not a corner carver or an adrenaline amping sports bike. This is a modern classic, but it's got enough poke to keep you entertained. And it's got plenty of poke just in case if you want to savor a straight stretch of tarmac. The Bonnie races to 100 in a jiffy, and once it's there, behaves well too. And thanks to the taller gearing, the Bonnie requires fewer shifts in traffic.
Now the Bonnie has got a light clutch which is very easy to operate. The 5-speed gearbox is also pretty crisp. The only minor glitch is you really have to hunt for the neutral. Apart from that, it's a great gearbox. Right now I'm on the 5th gear doing speeds up to 45, and if I need to pull off right now, it does so very smoothly.
The Bonnie is stiffly sprung, which makes it a great handler. Tip it on a twisty and the bike holds itself together. Hit a bump and you feel the pain.
Now the slim seat looks retro cool, but the problem is it lacks adequate cushioning. As a result, after a long ride, you are going to end up with a sore bottom. The bigger problem, stiffly sprung rear suspension. As a result, every rut feels like a kick to your kidneys. The only solace is it comes with adjustable preload, so you can tamper with the suspension travel, and hopefully that should sort out the problem.
Bringing the Bonnie to a halt is a 310mm disc at front and a 255mm disc at rear. Sticker price stands at 5.7 lakhs ex-Delhi, which is pretty practical and affordable. But just in case if you need more reasons to purchase this retro ride,
well, it's classic, it's contemporary, and it comes with a cult status like no other motorcycle. And trust me, the appeal of the Bonnie will not be withered by time, trends or technology. This bike would look as good 20 years from now. So whether you're a rookie rider or a biker buff, buying the Bonnie will fetch you bragging rights at any bar table.